Dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be looking at Kyrielle finally. I was away on military duty, so I was unable to live stream for her, unfortunately. And I actually didn't have time to actually watch her skill animation videos. And by the time I actually saw it, it was already the time when she was released in the game, and I was so overwhelmed and amazed by her animations. I mean, look at this, man. I remember her having that amazing, visual in Seven Knights 1, having to do with constellations and all. But wow, this is so beautiful. Like, I didn't expect her to have that glow in her eye, and also that whole sky of constellations is really good. They did give her such a good glow up. I love it so much. But before we look at her skill sets, I'm gonna just quickly give you a quick overview and evaluation for her. I personally do not feel like she is a PvE unit unless she was made for the world boss, because she does have a particular line and a passive that actually gives her some PvE utility. So other than that, I don't really see her being used in PvE, mainly in PvP, in PvP modes such as Guild War, Total War, and even your regular PvP. She can be viable, but probably not a meta changer as well because of all the Khal and physical teams out there, unless they are, trying to get somewhere with magic teams again. But otherwise, I don't see her as a meta changer at the current moment. She's definitely not used for raids. In terms of Infinite Tower, I think Paralysis could come in pretty handy if you need to. So overall, I think that for PvE, she's nothing more than a damage buffer and a support unit, and mainly just PvP usage. So let's look at her passive. She has a pretty long passive. She does grant herself all damage nullification for 3 hits. Okay, she also gives herself Guts once per battle and once hit, and once brought down to 1 HP, she will trigger Guts and activate a barrier as well. And then she also has a speed-based attack boost, which is similar to what Cult has. So ideally already from here, you want to give her very high speed so you can benefit from this attack boost if that's something you want to go for. But more importantly, as I mentioned, she does have an all-ally magic damage boost. And this boost, if I'm not wrong, is only given by Ariel at the moment. So wherever Ariel is used, for magic damage buffing, you can actually replace her with Kyrielle, except Castle Rush Rachel. Ariel is still useful there for burn immunity, so don't just remove Ariel for Kyrielle, but otherwise if you're using Ariel in other areas, you can always use Kyrielle for that. So upon skill enhancement, she actually increases its magic damage boost to a higher amount, which is pretty good. And T6 itself gives her a stronger barrier upon triggering Guts so that she survives longer. In fact, this will actually kind of give her a second life. And more importantly is that crowd control immunity, which lasts for 3 turns, which means she cannot be affected by all your Petrify, all your Shock, all these effects that stop units, which are very common in PvP right now, especially with the physical team around. So crowd control immunity coming in at T6 is definitely telling you that this unit is going to be very strong to counter against certain meta units we have at the moment. Next up will be a Meteor Shower. This actually does piercing damage, and I really love that it does piercing damage because moving forward we will have many heroes with immunities, damage immunities. So Kyrielle being able to pierce through this immunity and still land damage on top of paralysis is actually very decent. Next is Regulus. This is very similar to the Advent Shadow Khal skill set, whereby he actually clears debuffs off him to give him a damage boost. Right, so this is exactly the same concept, and not only that, it also borrows from his other skill whereby she has a chain attack. So if she manages to kill an enemy with this particular skill, she will be able to use this skill again to try to kill off another enemy. So it's actually pretty efficient. If she removes 4 debuffs, you can stack damage boost of 40% up to 4 times. That is 160% damage boost, which is very strong. And then her basic attack also does paralysis once enhanced, and I think this is also a pretty decent chance at inflicting statuses. 30% chance on the basic attack is actually pretty good. So for her gears, I've actually given her effect hit rate. This is her stats though. You can actually see she does have pretty high speed. Okay, the rest of the stats are pretty mediocre, I would say, just trying to get by. But later on, if you look at the main stats I've chosen for her, you realize that the main stats are not anything good at all, because my main priority here is to go for speed. So some players may even use gear sets that don't make sense at all, or gear pieces that just don't give you any effect, but their main priority is to have very high speed rolls, and that could be a strategy you want to employ, because later on you'll realize that speed for this particular team that I'm going to use Kyrielle on is going to be very, very important. So here I'm using, just really random main stats, but I still keep the set effect intact because I do want Kyrielle to have very high effect hit rate after all, and having effect hit rate at 70%, I think for me it's fine because I'll be using her with Cult as well, who does give effect hit rate boost. So just take a look at her stats. You can actually go for a more damage oriented build for her as well, such as crit builds or attack builds or weakness hit builds if you do have the gears around, because weakness hit is going to be very good for her when she uses a single target skill. But if we look at the top ranks in my particular PvP server, you realize that heroes are not used at all, so that kind of says something, right? She's not really that meta changer that people will actually do away with Kyle teams, because Kyle is just so strong right now, especially with the other physical units that actually help Kyle and make these physical units metacom so good and actually very tight knit. So this is the team I'll be using with Kyrielle. Okay, it's very similar to the previous meta magic team. I just removed Mercure, okay, for Kyrielle. The skill queue I'll be going is actually to use a paralysis first, and then use soul death, and then actually go with Cult's attacks. You can actually also use Vanessa's bottom skill or whatever skill that you want for petrification, or even increase skill cooldown, so whichever you prefer. So mainly here, the idea is to actually land the paralysis first and then try to soul death and kill the enemies after that. Some players will actually use soul death first, which is very common because they want to plan the soul death and then kill off the enemies instantly. That's also possible, but I'm taking another route with this strategy. So with Cult here, I'm actually on the crit set, not the best set for sure, but again my priority is on speed. So because I want very high speed, unfortunately I have to use this particular set. This particular set actually makes her more of a damage dealer. This is a build for a damage dealer, not really someone that lands debuffs, but for damage wise, I think Cult actually can dish out pretty good damage. So I'm still okay with this particular set because my team doesn't have very strong damage dealers. My Kyrielle is on the effect hit rate and doesn't have great stats other than her attack. So yeah, Cult will take that role. For my Vanessa, she's the block set with very high block rate. Hopefully she lives long enough, and also apply that passive defense down on the enemy so that my units can do just more damage. She also has two very good CC capabilities, so when paired with Cult, that's actually very good. For Platin, he's on the block set as well. Not enough block rate, I feel. Hopefully I can get more and then he can tank better and avoid crits, because him avoiding crits is huge for this particular team. Next up, my Jewelry is actually on the effect resist rate. Her main stats for the effect weapon, is effect hit rate. So as you can see here, effect hit rate is actually very high. Even for her rolls, I try to give her more effect hit rate. So with Cult, this is going to hit 100% for sure. But more importantly, the reason why I give her effect resist rate is because of the one turn crowd control immunity provided by the set. So this kind of guarantees that she wouldn't be petrified if I go slow, by enemies Kaguras, or I wouldn't be put with concussion with enemy Amelias, and so on and so forth. So crowd control immunity is actually very good. But one important thing to note is hopefully you do have her at a lower speed relative to your other units. Speed plays a very important role with such effects, because one turn of crowd control immunity can be gone very easily if your hero is very fast and uses basic attacks first. My other heroes have 69 and 65 speed, as you can see here. So Jewelry is actually rank 4 in terms of speed in my entire team, which means Kyrielle and Vanessa have to move first, and then Jewelry takes her turn, then the crowd control immunity goes away. So she can actually have crowd control immunity for a relatively longer time in that sense, and that's what I was going for, so that my soul death can be landed without any issues. Or rather, my soul death skill can be used without any issues. I'm just trying to maximize the possibilities for that. So the first team here we are meeting is very common team. She's going first with Kagura, but I'm fine. I'm gonna go with my Paralysis. Managed to paralyze the Kyle and the Amelia, which are very good options because they will actually cripple my team. Then I used my Soul Death. Unfortunately, I landed and killed the Amelia, but she cleansed it away. She basically cleansed the Soul Death of her own team, which is very sad. Kyrielle with the bottom skill kills off Kagura. Unfortunately, she's not T2 at the moment, so otherwise she could have used it again and kill off someone else, hopefully. So that is kind of like the idea behind the team, okay, especially if you have Kyrielle at higher Transcendence levels. So in this second match, I'm going first, and I was very lucky to land 5 paralysis effects on all the enemies. So over here I land the Soul Death as well, and hopefully we do kill Kagura. Most importantly is killing Kagura in any physical team, because if she actually revives with Indomitable, she will cleanse away your Soul Deaths and whatever statuses you have put on them. I would say the main problem with Kyrielle is her survivability. Even though that she does have guts, and this is not tied to any Transcendence level, which is pretty good, which means she can be used even at T0. She is still a glass cannon after all, so she will take very heavy damage. And just like any other new hero, if you don't have any accessories coupled to keep them alive for a longer period of time, then again they are just flat out useless in the current meta. So you definitely need your Immortal Rings or Revive Rings in order to keep your heroes around for much longer. Again, a very common meta team. I only managed to paralyze Phi, Kagura and Kyle, which is I guess pretty good. Soul Death here lands on, unfortunately didn't land on Kagura, I see. Which is very bad because, as I mentioned, Kagura does heal or cleanse effects rather when she revives. So yeah, I wish I could have kept them in paralysis a little longer. So here Kyrielle uses her bottom skill on Kagura, which is very wasted because using this skill on any hero with immunity or immortality is just gonna be a dead skill, because if she was T2, she would have chained the attack if she did kill off an enemy unit. But in this case, if she aims for an enemy like that, she wouldn't be able to proc that effect, and it just goes to waste, unfortunately, because it is a single target skill. So now we have T6 Kyrielle. If you look at her Transcendence effects, it is very similar to any other regular damage dealer that you have, so she can definitely be built on a more damage dealer oriented set without issue. And we are using the same team, but this time I'll be adjusting the skill queue to allow Kyrielle to use her bottom skill as the third skill instead in the later matches. So in this beginning match, we are still gonna stick with the regular skill queue, with just to use Vanessa's bottom skill. This enemy goes first and lands a Soul Death, which is very common, but I do hit back with very good paralysis rates and manage to basically cripple his whole team at this point in time. My Soul Death is gonna come through and kills off his Kagura, which is super good. Unfortunately, Platin uses this skill, but it may be a blessing in disguise, because as you can see here, Kyrielle uses her bottom skill and does the chain attack. This is a perfect showcase. What I want to say is that Platin using his HP alteration skill can come in pretty clutch, because what you want is to lower the enemy's HP enough for Kyrielle to actually kill efficiently and land the chain attack again. So this combo kind of worked out really well, and it wasn't something that I thought about. It was only something that hit me really much later when I was actually doing the voiceover for this particular video. Here we didn't manage to land a single paralysis, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know what actually happened, but as you can see here, she did paralyze my Platin and Menace, but my Kyrielle and my Jewelry are completely fine thanks to both units having crowd control immunity, and even Cult does have crowd control immunity as well because of a camouflage effect. So as you can see, Kyrielle used her bottom skill on Kagura again, which is a complete waste because otherwise I could have just, hit someone else and killed them off, I'm pretty sure. But one thing to note, of course, as you can see, wow, that is the first time I've seen Carl actually, kill with the Eye of the Strong. Buff remove, I mean. Which also brings me to this topic where Kyrielle can actually be a pretty effective taunt or a lure for Carl, because given her very high attack stat due to her passive and potentially from your gears, she can actually always get the Eye of the Strong, and Carl will always aim for her instead of your other units, which can possibly help in certain situations so that Carl doesn't, keep attacking certain units and killing them off with one strike. Of course, Carl has very strong AoE, so sometimes it really doesn't matter even if your one unit has Eye of the Strong. Very luckily, we did manage to kill the Kagura, but here as you can see, Kyrielle actually landed her single target on Rosie, which had very high block, and block completely walled that damage. So yeah, again, one thing to note is that if you're building a Kyrielle off a crit set, she can have the potential to be walled by block effects, and then in this case you will actually not do damage and not kill and also waste the skill. So it's really good if you can, in PvP wise at least, to have weakness hit set instead for PvP so that she's able to aim down on the enemy with lowest HP, or rather kill the enemy with the lowest HP and potentially use the skill on another target again. Of course, unfortunately in this particular meta, the lowest HP could probably be Kagura, and aiming Kagura is not great. Here we actually have to face off this annoying Rosie that just revived her allies, and yeah, it's all down to Platin here, and being struck with death even, it's crazy. I have 2 turns to get rid of her. Next up, he goes first again here. As you can see, same thing. I'm completely okay from the petrification. Unfortunately, I only managed to paralyze one of his units, which is sad. But here Amelia cancels off the paralysis. But it's also good because thankfully I land the Soul Death after, so his units now have Soul Death. Because if I use Soul Death earlier instead, then Amelia would have cleansed it. Would I say this team is the best team? Well, I've tried her with pure magic teams and they really didn't have very good survival. Maybe because I didn't have enough rings, maybe I was testing her at T0. All these factors can come into play, but I believe that still having Platin on the team is possibly one of the best decisions you can make if you have Platin. Otherwise, I think you're better off sticking with the physical team. So this is the final match for the video. So overall, why I say Kyrielle is a unit that you need to T6, well, I don't find her a need to T6, but if you really want to use a magic team, then she is a very good unit for that team and she should be T6 for that purpose. Okay, but otherwise, if you're not using magic teams, then I think Kyrielle doesn't need to be, built any further beyond even T0 or T2 if you're lucky, because she can potentially just be a PvE support unit for you, and I don't see much of the PvP meta changing that much, even with her release. Okay, so I hope this video helped and you learned something new from this based on the gear explanations and strategies. Hopefully it gives you some new ideas as well. And if it did help, do give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!